June 16, 1933. Blueprint for Recovery. The National Industrial Recovery Act was a central legislative measure of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal. Passed during the depths of the Great Depression, the act was designed to address the widespread economic collapse that had gripped the United States since the stock market crash of 1929. Unemployment had soared above 25%, industrial production had fallen by nearly half, and a crisis of confidence had undermined both consumers and investors. The National Industrial Recovery Act, commonly known as the NIRA, represented an attempt to revive industry, boost employment, and strengthen workers' rights through a coordinated program of government intervention. The act contained two key titles. Title I focused on industrial recovery. It authorized the president to regulate industry by approving voluntary codes of fair competition. These codes were developed by industry groups in collaboration with the National Recovery Administration, a new agency created under the act. The codes were intended to reduce destructive competition, establish minimum wages, set maximum work hours, and eliminate child labor. In exchange for compliance, businesses were allowed to display the NRA's Blue Eagle symbol, signaling their participation in the recovery effort. Title II of the Act created the Public Works Administration, a large-scale program to stimulate economic growth through government-funded infrastructure projects. Headed by Secretary of the Interior Harold L. Ickes, the PWA was tasked with planning and executing major public works, including dams, bridges, schools, hospitals, and government buildings. Unlike the emergency relief programs that focused on immediate employment, the PWA targeted long-term investment and economic stimulus. Between 1933 and 1939, the PWA funded more than 34,000 projects across the country, injecting billions into the national economy. The NRA marked the first time the federal government took an active role in regulating wages and work conditions across multiple industries. One of its most lasting contributions was the legal recognition of workers' right to organize and bargain collectively. Section 7A of the Act explicitly affirmed these rights, leading to a surge in union membership and labor organizing. The American Federation of Labor and the newly formed Congress of Industrial Organizations both benefited from the legal support granted by the Act. Labor disputes in several sectors, including steel, textiles, and automobiles, reflected the growing assertion of worker rights under federal protection. Despite its ambitious goals, the National Industrial Recovery Act faced significant legal and practical challenges. Critics argued that the voluntary nature of the industry codes led to collusion and price fixing, undermining fair competition rather than promoting it. Additionally, enforcement was weak, and many small businesses complained that the codes favored large corporations. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled the act unconstitutional in Schechter Poultry Corp. versus United States, 1935, arguing that it delegated legislative powers to the executive branch and regulated commerce beyond federal jurisdiction. This landmark decision effectively ended the NRA's activities, though many elements of the NIRA were later re-implemented through other legislation, including the Wagner Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act. The historical significance of the NRA lies in its bold experimentation with national economic planning during a time of crisis. It reflected a fundamental shift in the role of government from a passive observer to an active participant in economic affairs. The Act's emphasis on public works influenced later infrastructure programs, and its endorsement of labor rights laid the groundwork for modern labor law. While the Act was short-lived, its legacy continued through successor programs that shaped American economic policy for decades. The National Industrial Recovery Act remains a defining moment in New Deal history. It demonstrated the Roosevelt administration's willingness to test new approaches to solve unprecedented problems. Though ultimately struck down by the judiciary, the NRA's spirit of reform and federal responsibility for economic stability set a precedent that endured through the 20th century. Its enactment on June 16, 1933, stands as a pivotal step in America's effort to recover from economic collapse and rebuild confidence in democratic governance. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history.